Well, it was. I kind of I knew the artists that I wanted to work with, and I knew at least a handful of songs from each of them that I wanted to have in the piece. And after that, I began to see the story. And you and I have had many, I guess you can call them discussions or arguments or whatever about the gray line between narrative fiction and storytelling through journalistic or what did you call it, portraiture?
I call it portraiture.
Portraiture means, and that's when I guess we started talking about if there could be another component to $5 cover. Do you remember?
Yeah, I mean, I remember. So I guess at this point, the thing was a go, and you were sort of you knew that there was certainly a world that was going to orbit around your production, and I think you were trying to sort some of that out. So that's when I remember us meeting over at the dirt track. So you called, and you were kind of like,
the Riverside racetrack. Yeah,
yeah. You were like, I think you just said, "Hey, are you interested in doing some docs? And you want to talk?" And I was like, "Yeah." And that was kind of the start.
Wow, that's such a romantic setting, with the dirt cars, going around the track and drinking Pabst Blue Ribbon, and figuring out that we wanted to make films.
Yeah, and then, I mean, at that point, I don't even know how defined it was. I think, and I don't know that you did either. So I think we just kind of kept talking, and then as we continued to talk, it just made sense, I guess, for me to try and focus in on the musicians, and then where were those songs coming from? We had several kind of back and forth about would I be doing sort of the world that orbited, would it be the summer drive-in, or would it be kind of honing in on the musicians? And I guess we just sort of talked that out a little bit.
I think the one thing that people should probably know is that they're at least in the art scene, and I think that Bifus is a big part of this in the film community, but there has been a relationship between the artist and the commercial appeal and the paper. And it's a healthy relationship.
Right.
It's not one where there's really distance. Every movie that I've made, there was coverage on it and then a review of it, and that was even before Hustle and Flow. I mean, down to movies premiering projected on a sheet, at a bar somewhere. And so the fact that you made a film already, and the fact that you were already a freelance photographer for the commercial appeal, it seemed kind of a natural progression for the paper to be doing something that was a part of this very creative endeavor. I mean, I don't think this has really ever been done in Memphis, a web experience like this. I mean, you could probably count on one hand how many have been done in the United States, at least, that have taken a city and tried to do something exclusively with the city.
Right. So anyway, I mean, I think we just sort of have been at this a while, and it sort of spun into this thing that makes, to me, a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's weird how much sense it does make. I mean, I've heard so many people watch the episodes in the series, but then they're also watching the documentaries and even the pieces that Live from Memphis did with Flipside Memphis. And it's at that point that it's kind of like a no-brainer. People watch it and they go, "Oh yeah, well that makes sense." Having this more non-fiction part of a fictional episodes. People have been trying to ask me, like, is it a reality show? And, is it scripted? Is it semi-scripted? And I can't answer any of it, because, I mean, they're real people playing themselves in scenarios that are scripted, or not scripted, but just, phony. But they're usually from the people's lives.
Right.
And they just want to improv their way through those moments that already happened to them a long time ago, so they can re-explore it, and we can have it in the fabric of the whole piece that informs the songwriting of the song that we're highlighting. And so you look at that versus maybe setting up a photograph or photographing something that the light hits it just the right way, and you can get into a debate as to, well, what's real,
Totally.
and what's not real necessarily, and does the not real parts of it actually inform the truth of the person that you're trying to have a mass audience understand? Does that make any sense at all? I mean, we've had this debate a lot.
And I mean, the way I was, choosing to approach these things was really trying to explore the songs. I mean, the songs are very important in $5 Cover. There's these moments that happen throughout the whole your music moments. You've sort of really defined that. So that as I was seeing these kind of go through your episodes and listening to you kind of explain what you were going to have happen in these, within the webisodes themselves, and highlighting that specific creative sort of burst, or what is it in Memphis that gives power to these songs? Why do they just keep coming?
Well, I've always wanted to ask you. It seems like with on my episodes, the artists came on the days that we needed them. Mm-hmm. We'll call up Jack Yarber. Hey, we're doing the Ernestine and Hazel sequence on this night. So I worked with Jack Yarber a total of maybe 4 hours. Mm-hmm. Maybe Amy LaVere, I worked with her like 4 to 10 days. Right. But you had to be around them a little bit more. Right. I mean, did you feel that there was any sort of anxiety or fatigue with the artists? That it is a tremendous amount of exposure, but regardless of what happens with the series and the website, there still is exposure, because they're being open and honest, and you're photographing everything, every ugly little detail. And was that at all challenging? Or?
Yeah, I think it was, and I think it's, I've told people this before. I mean, our artists are really or not our artists, the Memphis artists that are highlighted in this series they're all so different. They're all unique, and that's why you picked them, I think, and they're all absolutely fascinating in their own ways. So, my process took about 8 months. So, and from inception to completion. But so I got to know them and constantly spent time with them. So I've had discussions with them about, they had to really be trusting to let me, in and do something that was different than, I think artists spend a lot of time creating a persona and packaging it and putting it out into the world. So I think it was a little different when I'm coming at them saying, well, I don't really want to do that. Let's find out about where that song really came from.
What do you think about that? That whole, I thought about that watching the series the other day, because you have Muck Sticky coming out in episode 2, and he's wearing the pajamas and the hat and the sunglasses. He's got this whole, beautifully freakish show. The next episode is Harlan T. Bobo on 2-foot-high stilts and clown makeup and a suit and a shadow puppet show happening behind him. And then you look at our history, and you look at Elvis Presley with the way he grew his hair, with Johnny Cash deciding he's only going to wear black. There is, I don't want to use the word gimmick, because even though I use the word gimmick as a respectful term sometimes, but do you think that for certain personalities there is a safety? I know it with myself, that there is a safety in that persona that you are projecting to people, or there is a safety in having a camera between you and a subject, or there's safety between having a glass partition between your mixing board and a musician, bearing their soul for the microphone. Right.
I think, and I think that's what took a long time for people to get comfortable with, and I think many of them are still sort of accepting it. I think some of them maybe were surprised about how honest they came across, or maybe had never heard themselves say the things that they were saying about them, about their families, or about their music, or really being personal. And I think that's just something that's going to be unique about this, and why it helps. I think when you watch your pieces, you really get interested in the artist. You get interested in the song, and then that's why I think this is such a nice bridge, that then you get to continue to explore and really get a little more of an inside glimpse into what makes Memphis special, I think.